You know, yesterday I did something really, really fun, and I would suggest everybody go do it. Go to LDR Labs. They have these series of tests. It seems like there's hundreds of them. I haven't even gotten to the bottom of the list yet, but there's all these tests like political leaning, gender, Simpsons tests, there's Family Guy tests, but they have all these other psychological tests, and I took several of them, and no surprise, I'm centrist, but I lean right just slightly. I thought I was a full-blown conservative, but come to find out, I'm more of a centrist that leans slightly right. But the big surprise, I took an IQ test because I was interested. You know, I've always thought of myself as, your average everyday idiot. I was quite surprised when I scored a 121 on this IQ test. And I'm like, maybe I'm not so stupid after all. But what's up, everybody? How the hell's your day going? I hope y'all having a pretty good day. This here is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date. We keep you informed on exactly what the government is doing because, man, the government is doing all kinds of underhanded stuff. I watched an expose on Tucker Carlson yesterday about the government censorship industrial complex. I would suggest go to Tucker Carlson's channel and look up that interview. It's recent. It's not the newest video that's come out, but it's like an hour long, and holy crap, it'll blow your mind like every 10 minutes. It's like just mind-blowing, mind-blowing, mind-blowing. But I would suggest go watch that. And if you also would love to, smash that subscribe button for me if you don't mind, and turn on your notifications. And if you could, as a big favor to me, I would surely appreciate it if you would smash that like button for me. It really, really helps out the channel. But let's go ahead and get into threats to democracy today, right? But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. Joe Biden is coming out hard with this threat to democracy. And no, it's not what you think, right? Let's go ahead and get into this story right quick. Saving democracy is central to Biden's campaign messaging. Will it resonate with swing state voters? Who the hell knows? Yes, but Biden is spouting this nonsense, right? Trump's a threat to democracy. We're not going to have any more democracy anymore. And, I've always been of the opinion, no, of course, threat to democracy. What the hell are you talking about? Name the threat. What's the threat? How are we not going to have democracy anymore? Prove it. You know what I mean? How is Trump a threat to democracy? He's going to restore our southern border. He's going to bring back manufacturing. He's going to do all this other stuff that really saves our country. We'll put it that way. So my democracy and Joe Biden's democracy are two different things, right? His democracy is the establishment doing what it wants. My democracy happens to be a constitutional republic that this country actually is, that we vote in our representatives through democratic processes, right? But we're not a quote-unquote democracy because outright democracy, as I've explained before, is outright insanity. But this is why the Biden administration is having an invasion on our southern border. They're bringing all these people in. We've already shown proof that some cities are allowing illegal migrants to vote, right, in localized elections. That's going to spread if this continues, right? But not only that, but the census counts these people, right? So now there is a theory out there that, I say it's a theory, but it's a pretty good working hypothesis, that California has way more representatives than what it should because of the census. All the illegal immigrants, these people get counted. Now they need representation in Congress. They may not vote, but they still get representation. There is, like I said, a working hypothesis that believes that California has up to 7 extra representatives more than what it should have based on the actual population of the citizenry. This is something that I've looked into, and, it's not concrete. None of this is, because it can't be proven outright. However, the evidence is quite damning, and I happen to believe it. But we do know that the Census Bureau counts these people. So Yeah. It makes you wonder why they're bringing so many people across that southern border. That actually undermines democracy when you do that. When you go after your political opponent, that undermines democracy, right? Turns you into a quote-unquote banana republic. All this stuff is damaging our country. Joe Biden's foreign policy is garbage, right? We've got wars in Europe. We've got wars in the Middle East. We've got China threatening to invade Taiwan, which we are very dependent on Taiwan for a lot of our modern day technology. They produce microchips that we put into everything. Everything electronic. They've probably produced the microchips for that. So the world is a very unstable place right now. Just so happens, though, when Donald Trump was in office, we didn't have any of this instability. You know, he kept Russia in check. The Middle East was at peace because of the Abraham Accords, which people seem to always overlook. They were always worried about, Donald Trump's going to start some nuclear war, right? With North Korea. What did he do? Without any security attachments to him, he walked across from South Korea into North Korea and shook hands with Kim Jong-il. Or Kim Jong-un, sorry. What? And the media just brushed over that like nothing happened. It's absolutely nuts. But let's get into this story because I've ranted for quite long enough. Northampton County, which includes Bethlehem, is a traditional bellwether for Pennsylvania, one of the most important presidential swing states, and Latinos are a key part of the coalition that President Joe Biden is trying to rebuild as he embarks on his campaign for a second term. In doing so, the Democratic might have challenges selling a crucial part of his re-election strategy, which is Donald Trump is so evil. Orange man bad. That's all he's got to say. One of the messages he has delivered in previous visits to Pennsylvania is that former President Donald Trump, the frontrunner for the GOP nomination, is a danger to American democracy. Biden is hoping that message energizes the same voters who turned out 4 years ago when Northampton County narrowly flipped to him after supporting Trump by a thin margin in 2016. Based on his interactions with visitors to the Hispanic Center, Santiago isn't so sure. It's the price of groceries and the lack of affordable housing that dominate conversations there. Yes, under Joe Biden's administration, his domestic policy, his financial policy, has been that of spend, baby, spend, right? He's spending money on all kind of crap that he doesn't need to be spending money on. He's turning off oil and gas leases out in the Gulf of Mexico while lying and saying, they've got plenty of leases. Yeah, they might have plenty of leases on those areas that they've already explored and found that there's no point in drilling for oil. So why would they want to purchase those leases if there is no point in drilling for oil in these places? It makes no sense. This guy is he shut off the Keystone Pipeline. Right, that was the first thing he done. Day one, right? So he's making us dependent on foreign oil, making us purchase foreign oil, having it shipped over here, which is a lot more labor intensive because it has to be pumped onto a ship, shipped way over here, and then pumped off of a ship and then refined over here, which makes no sense when we could just drill for it right there in the Gulf of Mexico and even up in Alaska, which we do a little bit of drilling, but we could do a whole hell of a lot more. He's making us energy dependent on purpose. This is bad domestic policy. His domestic policy is just terrible. And it shows. Inflation has ran rampant for the past 3 years. They're finally starting to get it to come down a little bit, but it's too late. Our pocketbooks are hurting really, really bad. I think so many people are already immune to that messaging. It won't land as clearly this election as it did in 2020, he said. If he keeps pushing that message, it might turn voters away. Yeah, it will turn voters away. Biden chose a location near Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, with its deep symbolism for the country's struggle for freedom for his initial campaign event for 2024, portraying Trump as a grave threat to America and describing the general election as all about whether democracy can survive. It was a message similar to the one he gave before the 2022 midterm elections at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where the nation's founding documents were created. Biden warned that Trump and his followers threaten the very foundation of our republic. Now, this is not true whatsoever, because Trump wants to bring back manufacturing, seal off our southern border, and he has a America First agenda. How is that bad for the United States when he puts the United States first? However, Biden is talking about this threat to democracy, right? Like portraying Trump as a grave threat to American democracy. Now, saying that, you gotta kind of think, what the hell is he talking about, right? When you think Biden says, oh, he's a threat to democracy. So what does that exactly mean? Does that mean we're not going to be able to vote ever again if Trump gets put into office? That's a ridiculous statement to make. No, of course, that's not what he's talking about. What he's talking about is his democracy, right? Their democracy, which their democracy includes the mainstream narrative machine. That is considered an institution of democracy, right? They can spread their propaganda through that. That's the threat to their democracy, right? Their internet censorship industrial complex. That's a democratic institution. Trump would threaten this democracy because it's going to screw up their propaganda machine. That's the threat to democracy they're talking about. So they're spilling it outright. They're just using terms just like the left does. They love to use these terms to make you think it's one thing when it's really something else. Gotta love it, man. These people are so deceitful. It's just crazy. Biden has continued the theme during the early primary season, telling supporters winning a separate second term is essential for maintaining the country's democratic traditions. Right. Like freely lying to the public through the media and freely censoring right-wing personalities for dangerous opinions. Yeah, that's exactly what Biden's talking about. That's the threat to democracy. Your opinion, my opinion, your opinion is a danger to their democracy. Over the course of several days, the Associated Press interviewed a cross-section of voters in Northampton County to ask whether Biden's message around the fate of democracy was resonating. These voters represented parts of the very coalition Biden will need to win Pennsylvania again. Black voters, Latinos, independents, and moderates from both parties. Their overreaching response, the president's warning that a second Trump presidency will shred constitutional norms and destroy democratic institutions, is not one that alone will motivate them to get them out to vote. I'm loving this, right? Shred constitutional norms, right? Like what? Like imprisoning your political rival, going after them with every single thing you've got. Yeah. Joe Biden has already done that. He's been doing that. Shredding constitutional norms, right? Like trying to legalize illegal immigration. Trying to throw your political rival in jail. Yeah. You mean shredding constitutional norms like that? Spying on the American people through social media. Shredding the First Amendment. Trying to shred the Second Amendment. Could care less about the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment. Actively shredding the 25th Amendment as we speak because this guy has no brain anymore. To do the stuff that Joe Biden does and still get up in front of the American people and say that Donald Trump is the actual threat just absolutely blows my mind. Like people across much of the rest of the country, most of those interviewed would prefer avoiding a rematch of the 2020 contest, and several suggested they would seriously consider a serious third-party candidate with a strong message and a chance of winning. Emily Fleming, 74, who regularly visits the Lehigh Hispanic Center, has lived in the country for 2 years after spending most of her life in New Jersey. Her opinion about Trump has been set since January 6, 2021, when the former president's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol in a violent bid to stop Congress from certifying Biden's win. No, that's not what they were doing. Sorry, you can't prove that. I can't prove it either, but she doesn't think reminders of that day will be sufficient to persuade voters in November. For the daughter of parents who immigrated from the Dominican Republic, her concerns are border security and spending abroad, which Joe Biden are horrible on, right? We have no border security on the southern border at all. These people pour across the southern border. The CBP just says, hey, how you going? How you doing? Have a nice day. There you go. And spending abroad, yeah. They're wanting to spend $95.3 billion to send to Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific. For what? Right? A war we're not going to win, or they're not going to win, in Ukraine. And we're giving $14-point-something billion to Israel, who doesn't need it. They're going after a small terrorist group, right? They're totally obliterating these folks, killing thousands of civilians in the process, right? I think the death toll's into 30,000 now. That's just absolutely nuts of a population of 2.2 million. That's a big percentage of the population. We don't need to be giving all this money out. And are they even trying to stop the war? Yeah, sure, Joe Biden may make statements like, yeah, I think they're going too far, but he's not doing anything about it. He's just making these statements. He's definitely not trying to stop the war in Ukraine at all. As a matter of fact, he's egging it on. Oh, we're going to fight to the very end. What does that actually mean? Fight to the very end. Yeah, until every Ukrainian soldier is dead, obviously. Until Ukraine puts itself, pretty much obliterates itself as a country. So now what do they have to do? They have to rely on the United States and the European Union for government. Rather than sending it out to foreign countries, I think we should use it for our people, she said. As a divorced mother who supported her son as he worked his way through school to become a lawyer, she also doesn't support Biden's attempt to waive student loan debt. If I was able to do it, I feel that they should. Kurt Balanch, 44, worked in the healthcare industry and is now a stay-at-home dad. He was weathering a 2-hour school delay with his 5-year-old daughter in his home in Hellertown, in a more rural part of the country. He registered Republican so he could vote in primaries, but describes himself as more libertarian. Yeah, a lot of libertarians do identify as Republicans right now because it's absolutely nuts to give this country, just hand it over to the Democrats, who are just going to destroy it with their ridiculous policies. Blanche said the messaging by both sides is pretty toxic when they warn that the other is a threat or danger to the fundamentals of the country moving forward. He supported Trump in the past 2 elections, but he is open to considering other candidates this year, especially if he thinks there's an appealing third party or independent candidate. Balch believes the dire warnings about a potential second Trump term are overblown. Balch notes that even during the COVID-19 pandemic, Trump let states decide for themselves how to handle it. I understand the rhetoric. Oh, he's going to be a fascist dictator, Balch said. I don't think it's a message that's getting people to the polls. I don't think people are legitimately thinking that they need to be afraid of Donald Trump. Thank you very much, guy. Christian Miller was a lifelong Democrat but became an independent in 2022 out of frustration with political gridlock and a sense that he got older, he was growing more conservative. Yes, this is what happens naturally. He said he might one day consider switching to the Republican Party, but not as long as Trump is leading it. That's not out of any worry that Trump would become a dictator if he wins a second term. I don't know that I fear it as much as it's being made out to be in the media from either side, said Miller, a 53-year-old bank executive who lives in Nazareth. I feel that the institutions are safe and are strong enough to withstand the challenges. Miller cited the dozens of failed court challenges seeking to overturn the 2020 presidential results by Trump and his allies as an example of the institutions holding firm. Surveys indicate concern about the state of democracy, but it's not clear how that will translate in November's election. A Biden campaign spokesperson said the democracy message is central to the campaign, but it's not the only one the campaign will use to reach voters. Protecting abortion rights and fighting for higher wages will be among the issues essential to the president's pitch. Yeah, these people love to advocate for killing their children, right? Oh, it's a woman's right to kill a baby. That makes no sense to me, never has, never will. I'm sorry. But people see the writing on the wall. They may not like Trump. And hey, I can't argue against that. I can tell you that Trump will not be a bad thing when he gets elected in November. Once again, America first. He's going to do everything he can to make this country better, whatever that may be. But it's not going to be some dictatorial. The United States will never be a dictatorship in any capacity. So Biden is not a threat to technical democracy, right? He's only bringing the country down with him. I've said it before. It's like he sees the writing on the wall and is walking out of the building, pulls the pin out of a grenade and throws it behind him. That's what it seems like to me. He's trying to destroy everything he can on his way out. But let me know what you think about all this down in the comments section. Is Trump a threat to democracy? Will Biden's campaign actually pull through? I don't think it can. This guy, he turns into a Roomba every time he comes off a stage, for God's sakes. He can barely talk. He's way too old. You've got everybody around him saying his age is a problem. Well, it's not necessarily his age. I've said this before, right? It's his cognitive abilities, his awareness of his surroundings, his ability to speak properly. We can't have a weak leader at the head of the strongest country on earth, right? We're supposed to be the best. The leader of the free world can't turn into a Roomba and fall down when he goes off stage. That's not a very good look, but let me know what you think in the comments section. And that's all I got for this one now. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and be positive. Peace.